Hello folks, welcome to Outdoors with Bud. I'm your host, Bud Fields. You know, in some of my recent podcasts I've discussed hunting with the recurve bow, and I discussed a little bit about hunting with the crossbow. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about hunting with the compound bow. Now, the compound bow that I've got with me today belongs to my grandson, Connor Zeck. When compound bows first come out, they were very crude looking. They were noisy. There wasn't nothing particularly pretty to look at, and they've come so far since the early to mid 1960s, 1970s, and they've really prettied them up, and they've come out with different camouflage stuff on them, and all the stuff that you need to hunt with. And Connor loaned me his crossbow because I cannot shoot a vertical bow anymore with my bad shoulder and my neck issues and everything. But he loaned it to me, and I wanted to bring it in and show it to you and discuss how this has revolutionized, not maybe so much this particular bow, but the crossbow, the compound bow itself. And there's several different manufacturers making these bows. This particular bow is made by the Hoyt company, H-O-Y-T. But there's others like PSE, that's Precision Bear Archery. Golly, there's so many that your mind can go blank trying to think of all of them. But the thing about a compound bow is they're much more critical as far as bow setup, because there's so many adjustments on it that you can adjust your draw length, you can adjust the poundage that you want, and you can add stabilizers on them and bow quivers and lighted bow sights and everything. And I wanted to show you Connor's bow and explain to you some of the things on it. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice from this angle, it's got a bow quiver mounted on the side. Now, you can actually take this bow quiver off and hang it on a tree limb or a hanger on the side of your tree stand. But a lot of guys prefer having a bow quiver because the arrows are right here and close to it. Now, another thing he's got on it, he's got an extended bow sight that sticks out the front. Now, this is what it looks like from the front. And then I'm going to turn it around this way and hope you can see it from this angle. You can see this bright ring around this. Well, inside of here are some sight pins, normally set at approximately 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 yards. Now, even though these bows are capable of taking a deer or a bear at extended yardages well beyond that, most of the times the people will set their own limitation on accuracy. I always had mine like the top pin. I would shoot for 20, 30, 40, and 50, but most of my shots was within 20 to 30 yards anyway. But if there was anything that come across the field in the wide open, I knew I was capable of launching it. And it's also got a fold down arrow rest here on the side. And now, like on the bowstring up here at the very top, it's got what looks like a little plastic donut. That is a sight. When you pull it back, all the way back, this is a kisser button right here. It comes to the corner of your lip. And this is where you locate your arrow, right here at what they call the D loop. You put your arrow in here, and it goes in through this little finger on the front. And then when you pull it back, your arrow is going to be basically down below your chin. The kisser button will come here at the corner of your mouth. And then with the string angle back, you're going to be able to look down through here, and you're going to be able to look through this and see your sight pins. It's just like on a rifle barrel. You've got a front and a rear sight. You've got the same thing on this compound bow. Now, another thing that Connor's got on here, he's got stabilizer weights on it. A bow does not recoil like a high-power rifle, a muzzleloader, or a shotgun, but it does vibrate some. And a lot of times these stabilizers will absorb a lot of that recoil and steady your bow arm down and take a lot of the shock out of the bow when you shoot it. Well, also on the inside of this ring, there's a little level, and that's telling you whether your bow is straight up and down or canted. I'm just going to point this bow towards the camera, but if But if I got that bow tilted that much to the side, I can look down through there and I can see that bubble is way up here to the left, which tells me I got to actually bring that bow back and center it up. And there the bubble is dead center, which is telling me that that bow is straight up and down. Now these compound bows, one of the main adjustments for it, or another thing he's got, he can actually use this mounting bracket and he can put his cell phone on this mount and actually videotape his hunts. He sent me some video of him shooting a doe, which was almost directly under his tree with his cell phone mounted right here. And then he showed me one when he killed his buck. I think he got a 10 or 11 point buck this year. That buck was out there about maybe 30 yards, and you could actually see that arrow hit that deer and the deer take off. And that's something. I mean, I'm going to put one of those on my muzzle loader, and I'm going to have a mount where I can put it on my crossbow, because I've taken a lot of videos with my cell camera when I knew I wasn't going to shoot the animal. But this actually lets you film your own hunts, and it's good to be able to go back and look at that, because it'll show you exactly where that buck was standing when you hit it. You get down out of the tree and you walk to where you think that deer is, you get a different perspective from being up in the platform or on the ground. When you walk over there, it's going to look different. But if you can't find the exact spot, you can look on that video camera video, and you can actually see where that deer was standing, and it's going to help you locate the blood. But as you can see, this bow itself is camouflage dipped, and this sight, you can move it back in closer to the bow, or you can move it farther away from the bow. The advantage of that is the farther you can move that bow sight away from the bow, the finer your aiming point is. But if you've got any movement of your bow arm, is greatly exaggerated with your sight being farther out. Now, a lot of guys like that. Now, I always did. I always liked a heavier weight bow, because when I drew it back, a lot of times I would develop a little bit of what was referred to as target panic. I would have my sight pin right above the bullseye on the target, and my mind was not allowing me to lower my bow arm. And a lot of times that created a habit of, if I held long enough and my arm got tired, I know that bow would start coming down gradually. Well, then that was a bad habit, because my mind was telling me that as that pin was coming down close to the bullseye, I would execute the shot, and that's bad. You don't want to execute the shot when that pin's moving. But really, there is only one bowstring on this bow. Now, I don't know how well that's showing up, but the only string is this part right here. It's got a series of what they refer to as bus cables that comes up. And as you can see, there's huge wheels on the top and the bottom. Now, with this bow in the relaxed position that it's in right here, you can see where those wheels are. Now, if this bow was pulled back, these wheels would roll over. Instead of that string coming down, it would come back at this angle and then to the bottom. And then he's also got bowstring suppressor down here, to where when that bowstring fires, the string vibrates and creates a noise. Well, this has got a rubber bumper on it, and that string will actually hit that, and it will quiet that shot down. Now, the main advantages of a compound bow is, when they first come out there, they had a weight reduction. Some of the earlier ones, maybe you had a 40-pound bow. When you pull it back to your draw weight, you were only holding 32 pounds. And depending on the size of the wheels and everything. Now, they come out with some that had like 30% let off. They had 50% let off. Maybe you had a 50-pound bow. When you pulled it back to your anchor point, you were only holding, let's say, 25 pounds. Excuse me. And now they've got them up like 75 and 80 pounds weight reduction. And if you had a bad shoulder or anything, that helped you quite a bit, because you were starting to draw that weight. But once you release that string and those wheels come forward, it regains all that power. And it developed a lot of speed and everything. But the thing about the compound bow, you can buy these at several places. I do not recommend buying one at a box store. Now, I'm not trying to badmouth Walmart or any of your stores like that. But the people, you could probably buy a bow similar to this. I don't think you're going to find this particular model of a bow in any of those discount stores. But the thing about it is the person working behind that counter is just an employee. They may not know anything about setting this bow up. If you've got short arms, you don't want one with a 32 inch draw length. You're not going to be able to get it all the way back and get the full weight reduction out of it. You don't want to get one too heavy. Therefore, the longest time, I've seen a lot of the people in Walmart, a lot of the bows that they had were set up for 32 inch draw. Now, I've got rather short arms. I had a 27 inch draw. If I didn't know how to compensate and make the adjustments on this bow, I would never be able to shoot that bow accurately with any consistency. Because you've got to have your draw length set just right. You got to have your poundage set just right. You don't want to be overpowered or underpowered. So if you want to buy a bow like this, I highly recommend that you go to an archery pro shop, because most of those archery pro shops, the people working there, they are very fluent and updated on all the equipment and how to use them and make adjustments. And it means a lot more to you if you're going to go out and you know that that bow is set up. And another thing is like replacing bow strings on them. You can't replace them just simply like you do a recurve bow or a long bow. You got to have a bow press that's going to compress the limbs back and relax the tension to where you can take the string off and replace that. And I highly recommend, if you're wanting to buy a compound bow, you go to a reputable dealer that knows what they're doing, because they will help you select the bow that you need. They will help you set that bow up and recommend the right size arrows and everything. And confidence is going to pay huge dividends. I know I've seen guys pick up a strange bow they never even fired, and they've gone out and maybe they killed a deer with it. And I know guys that's going out there, and because just like myself on my first deer hunt, there was no skill involved. I got cold. I was walking back to the truck in the wrong location, and I was lost, and somebody had run a deer to me, and I dropped down on one knee and I shot the arrow, and I actually think the deer walked into the arrow. Because when I went to the shop, the guy looked at my bow and he questioned, "Are you sure you killed a deer?" I said, "Yeah." There was things that was required on a bow I did not have on that bow. I bought it the day before hunting season. Number one, I did not have the nocking point where you locate your arrow. What that does, it assures you you're locating your arrow the same place every time. You're not going to locate it up here. You're not going to locate it down there. It's going to be perfectly perpendicular with your arrow rest. Another thing I didn't have the kisser button, which comes to the corner of your lip. I didn't have the sight pin, rear sight here to where I could look through it, the rear sight shoot. I didn't have any of that stuff, but yet I killed a deer with it. But that was just luck, and I could have actually wounded that animal and never found it. So this bow really revolutionized the sport of bow hunting and target archery. Now, they're very costly, but they're going to last you a long time if you take good care of them. And if you do get a bow, go out and spend as much time as you can getting yourself familiarized with the bow, and you're going to have a more enjoyable time, and you're going to have a better time when you go out there. Your confidence is going to be high that you know if a deer comes up and you get the opportunity for the shot, you're going to be able to take it. So whatever kind of bow you like, try them all. I mean, go to these shops, go to the pro shops, and try out several different ones. I've got a pretty good sized hand grip, and some of the bows I always struggled to get comfortable. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. What you're using might not fit me very well. So try several different ones, buy the one you want. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking anybody, how do you like your PSE? How do you like your bow tech? How do you like your bear bow? How do you like this bow? And get all these opinions, and then you're the one that's going to have to be satisfied. But get you a good bow. It's going to be rather pricey, but everything is anymore. And if you take care of it, it's going to last you for several years. You may have to replace the string maybe once a year, maybe once every 2 years. The cables will fray after a while. But a lot of the stuff that we used to have to put graphite on and everything, a lot of these things, bushings are sealed now to where it's pretty much maintenance free, other than waxing your bowstring and anything that needs moleskin on it to quiet it down. And always check them out for rattles, because when you release a string, that bow's got a lot of power, and it's not going to be unusual to get maybe a sight pin will vibrate loose, maybe a sight mount bolt is going to come loose. But bow hunting, it can be a lot of fun, whether you use a traditional long bow, whether you use a recurve, whether you use a compound bow, or whether you use a crossbow. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I hope I shared some information with you. And if there's anything that you would like to have discussed, feel free to contact me at budfields@frontier.com, and I'd be more than happy to try to come out and do a topic for you. And thanks a lot for visiting me, and look forward to seeing you again. God bless you, folks.